Today, we are doing a deep dive into a sales technique that completely flips the traditional pitch on its head. It's called the approach close. We're going to break down what it is, why it works, and the subtle but powerful psychology that makes it a real game changer. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the fundamentals. What is the approach close? Then we'll get into the psychology behind it. After that, we'll look at the exact 4-step script, see a new strategic framework, talk about mastering the implementation, and finally, see the whole thing in practice. All right, so first things first, what are we actually talking about here? At its heart, the approach close is all about neutralizing sales resistance before it even has a chance to show up. Now, pay close attention to the wording here. It's a pre-commitment strategy. That's key. See, your goal isn't to get the sale right away. Nope. Your goal is simply to get the prospect to agree to make a clear decision, a simple yes or a no, once you're done. That tiny little shift changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. And just so you know, this isn't some new flash-in-the-pan idea. This technique was made famous by the absolute legend Brian Tracy. So its principles are rock solid, grounded in decades of research into what actually makes people decide to buy. So what's the magic that makes this work so well? Let's unpack the psychology, because it's all about engineering a crucial shift in the prospect's mindset, taking them from skepticism to active evaluation. You see, it all boils down to creating what's called a psychological contract. Think about it. Every prospect you meet walks in with their guard up, right? They're expecting a hard pitch. By being totally transparent and upfront, you completely disarm those defensive filters. It's like they lower their shield and they stop trying to figure out how to say no and actually start listening to you. And this is the mental shift we're aiming for. You're taking the prospect from being a passive, skeptical observer, just sitting there waiting for you to finish your spiel, and turning them into an active evaluator who is genuinely engaged and figuring out if your solution is a good fit for them. This is the foundation of that psychological contract. And you know what? It taps into one of the most powerful human triggers, reciprocity. You're basically proposing a fair exchange. Your side of the deal, a promise of zero pressure. Their side, they promise to listen with an open mind and give you a straight answer at the end. It's simple, it's respectful, and it's incredibly effective. Okay, so that's the theory, but how do you actually do this? Let's get tactical and walk through the exact, word-for-word, 4-step script you need to use. The script has 4 distinct parts, and trust me, each one serves a very specific psychological purpose. We've got resistance neutralization, the social proof suggestion, the fair exchange clause, and the grand finale, the commitment action. Step 1 is all about lowering their guard. You have to look them in the eye, give a relaxed, confident smile, and say something like, "Mr. Prospect, please relax. I'm not here to sell you anything right now." This is the exact opposite of what they're expecting to hear, and it immediately makes them lean in and become more receptive. Next, you subtly weave in a little social proof. You say, "All I want to do is just show you why so many other people have bought this product." Now, notice how this isn't aggressive, it's suggestive. It implies that your product is already a success, that it's trusted by people just like them, and that makes them curious. They start thinking, why have they? Okay, step 3. This is where you formally state your side of that fair exchange we talked about. All I ask is that you look at what I have to show you with an open mind, and then just tell me at the end whether or not this makes sense for you. You're setting the rules for the meeting, and they are completely fair and reasonable. And finally, the master stroke, the move that locks in that psychological contract with just 3 simple words. Is that fair? I mean, who's going to say no to that? Almost no one. And as soon as they say yes, they have made a micro-commitment to you. They've agreed to give you a decision, which just vaporizes the "I need to think it over" excuse before you've even started your presentation. Now that we've got the script down, let's zoom out a little. Let's put this into a broader, strategic context by comparing the approach close to your standard run-of-the-mill sales pitch. When you lay it out like this, side by side, the differences are just night and day. A standard pitch jumps right into features and benefits, which immediately puts the prospect on the defensive. The approach close, on the other hand, starts by neutralizing that resistance to create an open mind. The whole decision is reframed from "should I buy this or not" to just "does this make sense for me?" You're moving from a one-way lecture to a two-way exchange, and that allows you to get ahead of objections instead of fighting them off later. Now, knowing the theory is one thing, but execution is absolutely everything. So let's shift gears and talk about how you master the implementation and, just as importantly, what common pitfalls to avoid.
Here's your 5-step game plan. First, you set the stage. Make sure you have their undivided attention. Second, you deliver that 4-part script we just covered. Third, you smoothly transition into asking smart, open-ended questions to really understand their needs. Fourth, you present your solution but tailored specifically to those needs. And fifth, at the very end, you call in that commitment they made earlier by simply asking, "So, based on what we've discussed, does this make sense to you?"
And please, whatever you do, avoid these common mistakes. Forgetting to smile makes your opener feel insincere and scripted. If you skip the fair exchange part, you never actually get their buy-in. Bringing a price before you've established value is a classic blunder. And finally, if you use high-pressure tactics later in the conversation, you completely violate the trust you worked so hard to build at the beginning.
All right, let's bring it all home. We'll look at this technique in action, and then here's some words of wisdom from the experts to really let these insights sink in. So imagine a consultant meeting with a busy, probably skeptical CEO. They don't open up a spreadsheet. Instead, they say something just like this. "All I ask is that you look at this with an open mind. And if you decide it doesn't fit, just tell me at the end. Is that fair?" Instantly, the whole vibe of the meeting changes. It's no longer a sales pitch. It's a collaborative evaluation. The CEO is now a partner in the discovery process, not just a target. This quote from Brian Tracy himself perfectly captures what's supposed to happen after the approach close. Once you've earned that open mind, you don't just talk at them. You start asking thoughtful questions to uncover their real challenges and needs. And Heinz Goldman really reinforces the human element here. The approach close isn't just a clever tactic. It's a powerful tool for creating a genuine bond. By removing the pressure, you're sending a clear signal that you actually care about finding the right solution for them, not just about making your quota. And we'll end with this fundamental truth from Brian Tracy, because it gets to the heart of everything we've talked about. The transparency, the fair exchange, the removal of pressure, it's all designed to achieve this one critical thing: believability. Because when a prospect truly believes you have their best interests at heart, they're ready to listen, they're ready to evaluate, and ultimately, they're ready to buy.